Well, it's great to be here and welcome everyone. I want to welcome you to Simon Fraser University's newest facility in our vibrant downtown campus. Sure, you can applaud the diamond. It's interesting, just a few days ago we were here to announce a new initiative called SFU Public Square, which is an initiative designed to foster public deliberation and engagement on important issues. So how timely and appropriate that I'm back here today inviting this or welcoming this public square to our public square. The question that I guess we were all asked to address is what needs to happen to create a healthier Vancouver? And obviously there are many great answers and many great choices, and many of them in fact overlap and intersect. The one I intend to focus on, perhaps not surprisingly, involves the transformative power of education, and particularly of universities. Now, some of you may be aware that SFU's been involved really for the past year and a half in a major community consultation project to try to craft a new vision. And as part of that visioning process, which I think to our collective surprise in the university turned out to be one of the most extensive ever undertaken by a Canadian university, we asked people what is it that they liked about the university and what is it they'd like us to do better. And in addition to hearing from people about how they like the traditional things that universities do in terms of teaching and research, one really strong response we got back was how much people valued and appreciated SFU's community focus, the extent to which we, in numerous ways, engage with the community and are a resource for the community, not just for our students and not just as a traditional ivory tower. And I think that speaks a little bit to the culture and history of this university, but we took it to heart and developed a vision that tried to suggest there's a way in which a university can, in fact, become even more engaged with the community. And so the vision that we developed out of that process, and I'll just quote the vision statement, is to be the leading engaged university defined by its dynamic integration of innovative education, cutting-edge research, and far-reaching community engagement. So that vision is really based on two pretty big ideas. The first is that universities have huge underutilized capacities to contribute to the economic, social, and environmental betterment of the communities they serve, to contribute to that community capital that Trevor talked about, using their human capital, but also all of their assets and resources. And the second and related big idea is that by harnessing these capacities, universities can not only contribute to a more affluent, just, and sustainable society, but they can actually create a richer and more rewarding educational and research environment for their students and their faculty members. In other words, it can be a win-win situation in which the contribution to the community actually enriches the educational and research experience. And if you think about it, and I'm sure you've heard examples today, certainly on the research side we have, but on the learning side too, students who participate in community-based learning gain workplace knowledge, they gain civic understanding, they gain a greater sense of social efficacy, in addition to the academic knowledge, the critical thinking abilities, and the research skills that they acquire in the classroom, in the laboratory, and the library. It can also have a profound impact on students in terms of their educational choices and their career plans. And I'll give you an example in a second. Similarly, faculty members and graduate students who undertake community-based research invariably gain knowledge back from the community and often experience a heightened sense of relevance and gratification in their research endeavors. And I think it can also help to motivate them as citizens to become more engaged with communities. And again, we've seen examples of that not just from Simon Fraser, but from other universities today, of people who are clearly highly mobilized and motivated in their community-based research. So let me just give you two concrete examples of this. One is a student I actually met in this facility about a year ago when he was still a co-op student, a fellow named Wes Reagan. He could be here for all I know. He was at the time a geography student, and he was in the process of completing 2 co-op terms in the downtown east side. One of which was very much involved in the Urban Farm Network project, and the other of which was involved in helping to develop a business improvement association within the downtown east side. Well, he got so turned on by those experiences that he completely changed his view of what he should do as a human being and as a citizen. And it's governed his career choice, and I'm happy to say he recently took on the role of executive coordinator at the Hastings Crossing Business Improvement Association with a real focus on community development. And if you talk to him, invite him to the next conference if he hasn't been invited to this one. He speaks with incredible passion based on the experiential experience he had as a co-op student, which enabled him to gain that additional perspective and energy. Similarly, SFU faculty members like Neil Boyd and Benedict Fisher, whose research on crime and addiction was really important, I think, in making the case for North America's first safe legal injection site in Vancouver, through that experience became mobilized and became very strong advocates, still are today, for drug treatment strategies and criminal justice reform. So those are two areas in which I think an engaged university, by linking students and researchers to communities, can not only add huge value to the health of those communities, but can also enhance the quality of the education and research environment. The key, in my view, is, and this is tough for universities, because the image of universities historically has been elite institutions, the ivory tower. But the key is there has to be a mutuality of respect. There has to be an understanding that this is a relationship that is mutual in benefit as well. And if that happens, I think the environment that it creates for students and faculty can be truly extraordinary. But I don't think an engaged university should draw the line there. There's a lot more that we can do. And I already spoke of the example of SFU Public Square, which is an initiative that will this fall host a community summit in partnership with the Vancouver Foundation to deal with some of those issues that were spoken about earlier around isolation and disconnection and exclusion within our community. That's one way in which a university can harness its resources, its physical and its human resources, to contribute to community deliberation. But I want to leave you with a story that I think shows how, in small but significant ways, if we start to change the relationship between institutions like universities and communities, we can really make a difference. And it's a story that was told to me by Jim Green, the legendary community activist who passed away recently and sadly. But Jim was a real champion of this project, of the Woodwards Project. And he was a particular champion of SFU being part of that project because he saw it as something that would be transformative of the downtown east side in a positive way. And indeed, when we came to this site, we did so with a commitment not just to create a great facility for our students and faculty, but to be a community facility for deliberations like this, for arts and culture, but also to provide programming to the downtown east side. And one of the first things that Jim did when we came here was he said he wanted to take on some of that first community programming. So he organized a lecture series on the arts. It was to be a lecture series, I think it was going to be opera and visual arts and architecture, and it was for the whole community. It was going to take place at the O'Dane Gallery. It did take place at the O'Dane Gallery downstairs. And on the day of the first lecture, which was on opera, after all the advertising had gone out, he thought he'd walk down and check it out and see if the arrangements were okay. And he walked down Hastings Street and came to the entrance on Hastings of the O'Dane Gallery. And there, standing in front of the entrance, was a big security guard. Looked pretty imposing, according to Jim. And Jim said to him, "Do you mind my asking, what are you doing here?" And the security guard said, "Well, I'm here to keep out undesirables." Jim said, "I don't think so." Now, knowing Jim, he didn't say it quite that politely. But he explained to the security guard that, in fact, this was a completely open event, and there were no undesirables. We wanted the community to come in, and the security guard went inside this facility, and the doors were unimpeded, and the community came. And apparently it was a great lecture. I wish I could have been there, but apparently it was well attended by people from throughout the downtown east side and the broader community. And after it was over, a gentleman who clearly had come in from the street decided he wanted to use the washroom facilities inside this building. And so he started to head inside the building, and a student saw him and became concerned and walked over to the same security guard and said to the security guard, "Hey, just a minute, shouldn't you do something about this? This guy's coming in from the street." And the security guard said, "Don't worry, he's from the opera." Now, I love that story because it shows how social transformation takes place in small but significant ways. And if you think about it, there were three transformations there. We have the gentleman from the street who suddenly had a facility that wasn't there previously, that was open to him and hopefully open to others within that community as a facility for them. We have a student whose initial preconceptions about that individual were transformed, and we have a security guard who went from seeing it as his role to protect the facility from the community to enable the community to utilize the facility. I think engaged institutions, engaged universities that are prepared to make the transition, to really be welcoming and to partner with communities, can bring about large but also very significant incremental small transformations of that kind. And I just hope that Simon Fraser University can play its part, along with the City of Vancouver and others, in ensuring those transformations build that healthy community we all want here in Greater Vancouver. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Andrew.